Hi guys, and welcome to episode one of the 12 GMT podcast. It is currently 3:15 GMT due to technical difficulties and time zones, but we're just going to run with it. I'm Sam. This is my co-host Gabe. Say hi, Gabe. Gabe says hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we do have audio. Remember. And this is, I guess, a new podcast.
Yeah.
With kind of the point that we're both two pretty young guys. I'm 20. Gabe's also 20.
Yep.
Yeah, but 20 more recently, so a little younger. And we're both working in watches, dealing watches, and kind of trying to get a footing in the industry, if that makes sense. So we're just going to chat about stuff we like, watches we like, obviously watches we have for sale. This is obviously to an extent a promotional exercise. I own rerun watches. Gabe will have a company at some point. It's currently just GVB. Yes, GVB Horology. We'll
Yep.
have everything linked. But I guess we'll just jump right in with a wrist check because that seems mandatory. Gabe, what are you wearing?
I have on. I'll show you first. The
I know
Grand
this one
Seiko,
well. Yeah.
the SBGE 255. There it is. Blue ceramic, spring drive. I mean, it's like
Hard to beat,
pretty
isn't
good
it?
size. It's 40.5 millimeters, but it hugs the wrist. So
Right.
it's kind of been my daily since November 29. No, I guess November 2020. Almost worn it every day.
It's been that long. I remember you getting it and being really excited. That feels like last month. That's funny.
I know.
Yeah. That's got relatively short lugs, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
I
it
guess
does.
it
Except
wears small.
it's like 15 millimeters thick, though, so it's like massive.
Jeez. How much of that is crystal?
None of it.
No.
Oh, you can see.
Oh, yeah, it's not really. Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
pretty much none.
It's like
I thought that had a domed crystal. Maybe I guess not.
it's slightly domed, but
Okay.
for some reason when they slap an automatic rotor on top of a spring drive movement, they become super thick. I don't understand it, but
Yeah, I guess all the really like elegance lines are mostly manual wind, right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
And I'll get a video going. I'm wearing a Tissot C-Star, which is also a blue dial, but I guess a significantly less impressive watch. It's on a beads of rice bracelet. This one is for sale at Rerun Watches. But I've always wanted a Tissot C-Star. Like when I was first starting collecting, they seemed like a really good, affordable watch.
Yeah.
And beads of rice bracelets are cool. I had this beads of rice lying around and it happened to fit, which is nice.
I really like that blue dial a lot.
Yeah, it's subtle. I'm gonna wear it outside because it's probably gonna hit really well in the light and look really good. Okay, should we kind of talk about these are the watches we're wearing right now, but that's not the whole story, right? We don't own one watch each. If only life was that simple.
I know, right?
So how should we talk about how we got into the industry? How we like not started collecting? Because I started collecting because my parents gifted me a watch. It's not like a super interesting story, but I got into the industry differently. So if you want to talk about how you got into, I guess, watch flipping, watch dealing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of got a wild story, kind of. I I've always dabbled in like I usually buy watches to keep. I don't buy with the intent to sell watches. And I have this business friend who proposed a deal to me where if I can prove that selling watches semi full time is a viable option, that he'll help me fund doing it. So we made our first purchase together of a piece, and I started listing my personal watches as well as this one piece. I'll actually show it. It's for sale. It is a Rolex Oyster Perpetual 116000. Recently discontinued. It's full mint, not a scratch on the whole watch. It's great.
It's really nice. And that's a 36 millimeter for anyone not familiar with reference numbers.
Yep.
Very clean. I want that watch. I'm not going to even lie. I want that in my personal collection. Yeah. Yeah, you got it. And I was like, it's kind of small for Gabe, but I reckon he'll end up liking it. And you have. So I'm not surprised.
Like floated towards smaller watches. I can't even wear my Seiko Turtle anymore, like at all, because it's just too big.
I like to think I'm part of that trend for you. going to smaller, because I wear like
Well,
I daily wear like 34 millimeters. That's pretty standard for me. And I consider myself more of a vintage dealer. I do have I have one relatively new watch in the stock, which is this Yema Navy Graph. But that's consignment, so that's not even that's like not my preference for what I would stock, although it is very nice. I did a video
right.
there. But I was thinking about how I got into like the watch industry and watch dealing, just filming the Yema. And I guess I got into watch flipping because I used to work in a pub, which is pretty standard for an English kid. We should actually preface this. I'm British, living in Birmingham, England. Gabe's American, living where? Do you want to dox yourself or just be general with it? Be vague.
I live in Iowa.
He lives in Iowa, very rural.
It is. I live in a very small town.
I feel like if you named your town though, it would kind of dox you. But yeah, I live in Birmingham, which is a really big city, so less risk there. And there's lots of good stuff in Birmingham. We have like a jewelry quarter. It's a really good place to flip watches and deal watches. But I used to live in the south, and I used to earn £60 a week. Oh no, 65, which that 5's important when you're earning that little. Because I used to work like a weekend job while I was at school. I earned £10 an hour. It was £6.50 an hour for 10 hours a week. So I had to like flip watches in order to afford to call the watches. That was like, it wasn't an option. Just saving up, I would have taken like months and years to get anything I liked. And I worked on a really strict budget for a long time. Which is why I now tend to deal watches like typically under £500, or under £1,000, definitely. Money's going to be funny in this podcast because you're going to be speaking US dollars half the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to be speaking US dollars sometimes, and sometimes pounds, and sometimes euros. But this is all fake numbers, I guess. It's, don't really matter.
Seems like the reason that you started dealing vintage is because greater vintage pieces were available to you in this price bracket. So you could pick up some vintage piece and then flip it for, a bit more cash. But like a vintage Omega Seamaster, depending on the model, is like, I don't know, for me, like $500.
Yeah. So vintage definitely offers more value, I would say. And I'm still finding that. I used to deal in pretty rough vintage because that's all I could afford. So it'd be like a Tissot like this, but way more beat up, like patina on the dial that wasn't that nice, and you had issues.
Yeah.
But as I've grown, I've kind of had the luxury of dealing nicer, cleaner pieces. Like I have a Zenith here. It doesn't have a strap on, which is like ridiculously clean, super nice.
Yeah, that's a really nice piece.
So that's kind of what's been my progression. But I was thinking about this because my story is pretty complicated. We have a mutual friend called Chip who will be on the podcast at some point, and he asked me to write a blog for him. And I can't for the life of me remember the name of the blog because it never launched or there was an issue or whatever.
Yeah.
But I posted on my story excitedly when I had like 1,000 followers, like, I've written a blog, and was like really stoked. And people were like congratulating me, and like everyone was happy and nice. And this guy from Portsmouth messaged me and he said, "Oh, would you like to write for my blog?" Which was like, yes, just completely yes. And he kind of prefaced that it would be paid. So that was my first like work in the watch industry. I mean, flipping watch on my own, I didn't really consider because I wasn't a company back then. That was just kind of part of collecting for me.
Yeah.
I mean, all collectors buy and sell. I wasn't like doing it industrially, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like an iPhone 7, so my pictures were rubbish. And I was really just kind of shoestring budgeting through it. But I was paid. I did a few initial articles and I was paid really well. And then I ended up doing a weekly article for him, which was really useful because it was like constant income. And I think it was £20 for like a 500-word article, which is still pretty good. But
yeah, not bad.
It's like a slightly lower rate than what I got paid initially. But so that money helps with watches too, because like after a month you have a little nugget of cash to go buy something vintage or something interesting, or even just straps. Like gave me some strap budget. And then from then on, kind of similar to you, I was talking to my dad, and my dad this last year has really got into watches. He liked Bremont, which was great, because obviously British brand, and they do a lot of aviation stuff. And we have my granddad was RAF, so it appealed to him. Fair enough, that was the marketing. I like them; they're nice watches. Um, so he has a Bremont, and he has some Ferrers now because he got into micro brands.
Oh yeah, I forgot he got that piece. Chip was super jealous about
He
that.
has two. So he has I believe, an Exmoor,
Hmm.
um, which is a pointed eight, and then and it comes with like they come with like three straps. So it has like a Jubilee, a leather strap, and a NATO maybe. The
Oh, that's
basic,
interesting.
it's pretty cool. I love their packaging. I think, and I've met the owner. He's a nice guy. I think they know what they're doing. He used to work in marketing, from what I know. And yeah, and then he got the Fairlander Mark IV, Mark V, the new one, basically. And one
Yeah.
of our friends, Chip, who I just mentioned, was very jealous because he has a Mark III or something, one of the older ones, or
Yeah.
maybe even earlier. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that was a watch that was a bit infamous in our friend group because Chip wanted one for like a year, 2 years since
Yeah,
they
and then
came
he got
out.
his, and then the shatter fell, or the dial fell off.
Oh, did it?
Do you remember that? The dial,
No.
like, inside the watch, the dial was, like, turned 90 degrees.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Did he end up just sending that back to them, or to get a watchmaker to
They
sort
fixed
out?
it.
Yeah,
They fixed it, no charge,
I'm
so.
I'm not surprised. The customer service, I'm sure, is great. Um, yeah. So what was on track? Yeah. So my dad got into watches, and he started kind of understanding why I like them and why they have like intrinsic value. Um, so he offered to loan me. So I wasn't given this money; it was loaned to me, and I have a contract.
Hmm.
About £5,000 for 18 months. So I bought stock with that, and the idea is to just roll it, and at the end of the 18 months, pay him back. Um, so very generous, but it is like I have friends who like, oh, your dad gave you money for a business. So I was like, no, no, he lent me money. I have to pay it back. It's pretty stressful at times. I'm like, if I'm not getting sales, I'm like, I'm never gonna get this
Uh,
money.
People are going to start comparing Sam to Trump. Sam got a $1 million
A
loan
small
from his
loan of
dad.
£5,000. £5,000 is a lot. I was not expecting that much, but he was like, "Do you want to start with this much?" And I was like, "That would be really great." Um, and I built that to just under 10 grand worth of inventory, so I'm pretty happy right now. Got to take some kind of bigger risks with the company that I wouldn't have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, 10 grand of inventory is still nothing as a watch dealer, right? That's like one watch for like someone big. And so it's like, this is why we're very small shrimp, right? We are small fish in a very big pond. Um, at
Yeah, when
least,
I hear 10,000 pounds in stock, I'm like, wow, dude, like, you've grown. And
yeah,
then you look at, like, some other guys we know, and it's like, here's a solid gold sub to sell. Like, yeah, okay.
yeah, which
One
is,
day.
yeah, it's all about building up, isn't it? And I still like dealing in these small watches. Like, I have two watches in front of me worth less than £200. I still think they're great
Yeah,
and
I
they're
actually have
interesting.
this Timex Q. I'll show you.
Oh yeah, that's a
The
nice one.
night, yeah, the 1958 reissue or 1978 reissue. But I mean, I wore it like 4 times to work. It's a great watch. It just
Yeah,
doesn't get any wrist time for me, and I think I listed this for 150, which is, right under what you'd buy it for on Timex. I guess it's 175
Mhm.
from Timex. So it's like, I mean, people are scared of Timex in the watch world because it says Timex on the dial, you know?
I think it's cool.
But within the last couple years, Timex just completely like stole the show in terms of affordable watches.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think like Timex, Zodiac. What other brands have like just older brands which have now just started killing it, and like whatever they're like marketing and their promotion and their new models, like it's just kind of clicked with the watch community.
Well, I
Um,
think they
it's
finally
impressive.
figured out that if you throw back to vintage watches but reissue them in modern cases, that people are like want to buy those because quote unquote actual watch people want like a reissue, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have right here the I'll show you the Baltic, right? which is
Mm-hmm.
it's a vintage Calatrava style. They put their own spin on it, and they've done really well. But it's definitely inspired by like vintage Calatravas, micro rotor movement. This one is not for sale. I'll be very clear about that.
It's so cool, dude.
It is. I got this for retail. A guy in, I forget his name. A guy in the States got one, wanted to return it. He was like, "Oh, I'll just sell it to someone for retail." So he did. He could have made like a few $100s easily off me. I would have paid a little bit over retail, not like on eBay here they're listed at £1,000, which is double retail. But I don't think they're selling for that. I think they're selling for about $750 from what I've seen from like auction results. But obviously that's a very hot watch right now. And Baltic, they were just only watch. Was that last night? I think it was like 80,000 Swiss francs they sold for.
For what?
The Mono Pusher only watch. Did you not see that? A very, very cool piece. I believe it was a vintage Zenith, not Zenith.
No.
Vintage Venus. Yeah, vintage Venus. That's a mouthful. Vintage Venus movement. Mono Pusher.
I'm gonna Google it. My keyboard's all the way over here.
I think it's really good looking. Like I saw them and I was like, this is very cool, vintage throwback. Also, their straps are so good. You Google, I'll talk about the strap. So their straps are like calf leather and like super supple. Like I've worn watches or tried on watches at boutiques, and I'm like, this strap is like, it's like a genuine leather strap and like a £5,000 watch, and I'm like,
yeah,
this isn't feeling as nice as the watch itself. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna definitely put a custom strap on this. Whereas this Baltic, it suits the watch. I believe you could pick the strap when you ordered. You could pick the dial and the strap and match. Yeah, it's super nice. Is it quick change? And it's quick change, so it's really convenient. So this is like my newest personal watch. I'm very happy with it. We should probably make sure we're on track here because we're just rambling.
That's fair. Good thing is we can make as many cuts as we want.
True.
Like, once like all the video and audio is lined up, it's really easy to just like randomly cut out 35 seconds or
Yeah, we're still learning this, so we'll get into it. I think next
my audio shows that we've been recording 24 minutes, so
okay, we got to think about the cameras too then.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about, I guess, our view on the current watch markets? Because I guess we've touched on it, but not really. So
yeah, we should talk about that Rolex thing I was telling you about.
Yeah, do you want to start on that?
Yeah, let's do it. I was just thinking about. This is something I've been thinking about actually for a long time. I hate how limited Rolex is, and I like from a little guy perspective, which is me, I can't tell if it's due to shortages or due to labor shortages or they're purposely controlling the market, which is kind of what it seems like.
Yeah.
And I understand like shortages in manufacturing, but like everything's done in-house. Most things are done in-house, so it's like, what are you doing? But I love Rolex watches. I can't get Rolex watches out of my head. It's like, to me, I've handled a lot of like luxury brand watches, and I know that you're like an IWC guy.
Yeah, I'll talk about IWC at some point, but yeah.
I just like, when I try on IWC, it doesn't connect with me like Rolex does, and I don't know why that is, but everything everyone says about Rolex is true, and it sucks.
Yeah. So, yeah, my litmus test for if I like a watch is how solid it feels. So there's lots of watches out there that feel solid. There's lots of vintage watches which feel great. This feels amazingly solid for the price, right? It's solid steel case. It's got kind of a weight to it, which is hard to describe, but it just feels right. And I've never handled a watch which does it as well as Rolex. Like, I've handled watches which were insane quality, like Grand Seikers and IWCs and all sorts, and Pateks and APs. And like, I've been to trade shows, I've seen it all. Just something about the Rolex Oyster bracelet and like how they feel and the proportions is just like, it's really hard to beat. Which is why I want an OP36 or a Explorer 36, to be honest. That's just like, I wouldn't say end game, but it's definitely like one of the things I would need in a dream collection. And something I like see
Yeah.
myself getting by the age of like 25. Like, it's kind of a goal. Yeah. So where were we? The bracelets?
Yep.
I really like how this bracelet is. And it's just, I mean, I'm kind of shilling it but I genuinely was with a few guys at the London Watch Show and I was trying on APs. I didn't try any Pateks, which I kind of regret. I was trying on APs especially, and like solid gold ones, steel ones, a newer steel one, like a 2021. And I think, what were they? They were 37 and they wore big. And I was like, I don't really like this. I didn't like the bracelet. And I was like, and it was a few grand over retail they were asking. It wasn't crazy, but I was like, it wasn't really my thing.
That's interesting. I've never tried on a Royal Oak on a bracelet or just at all. I really want to, like, the Blue Dial 37 millimeter Explorer. Wow. Royal Oak is one of my like top grails. Just it has been. I've never tried one on though, and I definitely am picky about how a bracelet wears.
Yeah, it was kind of a grail for me, and I like the grey dial and the blue dial, but it was disappointing. I don't know why. I get why people like them. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would happily own one. I'm not going to complain. But yeah, it didn't quite feel right for me. Maybe I'm not used to the size.
That's interesting.
I don't know what it was.
I will say that, like,
anyway,
with my Grand Seiko, I was offered a birth year Submariner date before the prices went crazy on those like 90s to 2000s subs. So it was like it was like right around 7,000 plus tax, which was
nowadays it would be 10, 11, right?
Yeah. So I said no because I went for the Grand Seiko. And my only thing about the Grand Seiko that I don't like is that it feels like a Seiko bracelet. Like, it doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it has a nice clasp, but it's got this Seiko-esque, like, quick release type. And then, you know, you just compare it to the Rolex. And this is the cheap Rolex, right? The entry level.
Yeah, the entry level.
And this bracelet,
without even the fancy clasp. Yeah.
The bracelet is just so good. The clasp, the locking mechanism. I thought that I wouldn't like this. I don't know, what is it called? The quick release kind of Rolex clasp that they have that doesn't have the safety, like the divers.
Yeah.
No, it's
did
great.
Two. I tried on a yellow OP, which belongs to Watch Tim. Also 36, I believe. Yeah, 36. And it wore so nicely. And he's got bigger wrists, but it looked good on him too. And it looked good on me. And I was like, dude, I like it so much.
Yeah.
And I was actually at an IWC event or a meetup. We should probably cover this. But like all the IWCs were great. But this Rolex was so nice.
Yeah.
I want one.
I like a date on my watches. Like, I really like having a date window just because I actually use it on a day-to-day basis. I can't be bothered to take out my phone, my tiny computer, to look at the date. I just want to look at my wrist. And so I've got the Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's nearly perfect for me, but it doesn't have a date.
Yeah.
Does
the Pelagos have a date?
Yeah.
Pelagos? Yeah.
That's
bigger.
And it still has an ETA.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with those
That's
ETA
cool,
movements.
Though. No. I was considering getting a Black Bay 36, which I believe is still ETA. Because they have a smiley dial where it's just, is it self-winding or rotor or something?
Yeah.
But it's a smiley dial, which looks cool. I like it. It's a good vintage throwback. But yeah, I guess the new movements are kind of a want for most people.
I don't know. You hear in-house and Tudor, and then it gets you excited.
But also the costs going up, so it's like they're not as affordable, or they won't be as affordable soon, which is a shame. But,
I will say that if anybody's in the market for a Black Bay 58, black or blue, that the prices aren't crazy like they were a year ago. I mean, you were paying $1,000 over market, and now, like, my Black Bay 58 Blue with this strap code Super Oyster and the OEM strap, I have listed for under MSRP. So
yeah. Yeah, they become well. I think they became available here in Birmingham before they did in the States, like widely. Like
Yeah.
you guys are like we can't find any, and I was like, there's two in my AD's window right now,
Yeah.
like one on strap and one on oh sorry, one on I guess it's an oyster still, oyster bracelet, and one on like NATO strap. Um, but I haven't seen many blacks. It's always been the Black Bay Blue. Such a mouthful.
The
It's annoying.
the
It's annoying with Tudor.
the Black Bay Black. So yeah, the black version of the Black Bay 58 has now gone up in value. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but they're going.
I think
for,
they're making them less.
I guess they're going for like $3,800 to $4,000 now, and the Black Bay 58 Blues. I guess the hype has died down so much that everybody wants the silver Black Bay 58. So
yeah, I mean, I think definitely the Black Bay Black is more throwbacky and it looks more like a vintage watch, whereas the blue looks more like a new watch. So I think the hype on the blue just didn't last as long. I have a client called Sam, ironically, with a Black Bay Black, and that's the first time I saw one in person. I was like, oh, no, I really prefer this. This is like way nicer. I'll have to get him on the show at some point because he's a great guy. He's our age. He wrote a blog for me. He was like, do you want me to write? He was like, are you doing a blog on your website? I was like, yeah, maybe at some point. And he was like, oh, I'll write an article. I was like, cool. I can't pay you. I can't afford to. And he's like, it's fine. It's like, awesome.
that's sweet.
So I'll have to find ways to pay him back for it. Probably give him straps or something. Yeah, we should talk about IWC because actually I've covered it on my YouTube channel before, and this will be posted on YouTube. But I'm a member of a club called 9 by IWC, which is was originally 9 students. It's now 21 students in the UK. We make content for 9 by IWC. That's the Instagram. We have a website, 9 by IWC, 9byiwc.com. It's a bit of a mouthful. Yeah, so I often spend time at the Bond Street Boutique. I've been there a few times, trying on watches, taking photos, and then we have content to post. I also interviewed the CEO of Iwc, Chris, who's like an intimidatingly good-looking man and very confident, and he's great. He now follows me on Instagram, but he is like too perfect. It's kind of funny. So yeah, that's a very short version. I guess we'll go into more depth. I'll probably have guys from 9 by IWC on here because they're all students, obviously, so they're our age. But I should probably disclaim, is that the right word? I'm not a IWC employee. That's very clear in our contracts. We don't get paid. We just make content and play with watches, and sometimes they feed us, which is nice. And yeah, I think I'm actually going to be going to an event at the beginning of December in London.
That's cool.
Like kind of a meetup with the whole club.
You're not paid, but you have seen some really cool...
I've seen some really cool stuff, yeah. Like IWC tourbillons and like whatever. And they're bringing trays of watches to like a group of students and being like, Clara adds like £250,000 worth of watches. So it's like, it's heaven, and it's like getting paid. I would happily do it for free forever. So yeah, I've seen most of the IWC watches. The really limited stuff, sometimes they won't have, or they won't be able to show us. But I've seen a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, you got to see those new chronographs.
Yeah, the new 39mm. I forget what the model is. Yeah, we saw those. I think as soon as they released, or just before they released.
And those come in this awesome green dial.
I think I have a photo of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you did too.
Yeah, it's like an olive green sunburst. It's subtle compared to the Pilot's chronos, because there's Pilot chrono green dials, which are like really bright in your face dials.
Yeah.
I like them a lot, but it's a much more like subtle. It's still sunburst, but it's kind of like drab olive sunburst.
Reminds me of the same green of the Alpinist.
I would say it's similar, if not a little bit more muted.
Interesting.
But it's much closer to that. And we were inside though, and that's an issue with so we like on the top floor of the boutique, there's like a conference room they let us use, or like a meeting room, whatever.
Yeah.
And the lighting there is good, but everyone still crowds around the windows to get the best lighting, which is, So I was looking at like, just through a window on the light. I didn't have like a softbox like I do here,
Bring one.
or like we weren't
Bring
at
a
the
tiny
sun.
one.
I have actually bought this one to the boutique before, like because it packs up pretty small. I have done that,
You should
but it's
get
not that powerful.
you should get an Aperture MC. Have you heard of those?
No, you know so much more about photography than me.
The Aperture MC is an RGB little tiny light bar that comes with a diffuser, and you can set it to different normal color temperatures, so you can go like between tungsten and daylight, and you can do any color. It fits in your bag. It's USB-C rechargeable, and it gets crazy bright. So you just pop that diffuser on there, you bring a little Gorilla Pod, and you have diffuse light anywhere you go. They're $90 for us. I don't know how much they are for you.
It's just 80 quid, which sounds reasonable. That would be cool. But we're actually, IWC is like, they're trying to deck the space out and make it more studio-ish. So we have like tripods. I actually do think they bought lights. So like a whole setup of the ones I have, like, so we can shoot video in there and we can do whatever. And maybe a podcast. I'm sure I'll do a podcast.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because there's some great guys and we have access to like obviously important people in IWC. So it's an interesting conversation. But anyway, this isn't affiliated with IWC. I should make that very clear.
We could be,
this is
though.
something I do on my own. We could be. We'll take a sponsorship any day of the week. I'm sure we will sell out immediately.
Yes, I'll sell out.
I'd happily be an authorized dealer. Whatever you need.
You can anybody, even Hugh Blow. No, I'm just kidding.
Even
no, I'm just kidding.
I nearly would just for the meme. I don't hate Hugh Blow. I don't hate any watches. I think that's pretty. It's a good trait to have when you're like me and you know lots of people, because I could easily say something like if I had strong opinions like that, it could probably upset someone I know. But I'm like, I like all watches. They all tell time. They're all interesting in their own way.
I don't hate Hugh Blow like Nico does.
Yeah, he's the strongest.
But I will say,
voice, isn't he?
In one of the Facebook groups I'm in for buying and selling watches, the Hugh Blow is like the solid gold Big Bangs, super complicated flyback chronograph, $8,000.
Yeah,
like a regular Big Bang 3-hander, $4,000. It's kind of just insane how the value just absolutely plummets.
Yeah, I guess part of the thing I do as a dealer is obviously advising people on what watches to get, because they'll ask like, I have this budget, what can I get? Or like, sometimes it'll just be, I'm a young guy, I like sports, what should I get? It'd be really vague, and I'd be like, okay, let's start asking questions and narrowing it down. But normally with being a younger dealer, I have younger clients often. So like a lot of my clients are under 30, especially the repeat ones. So part of it would be like, I can't afford to lose a load of money on this. Like, and I tend to like encourage people not to spend as much as they should, like, or they could. Some people go like, I have a $5,000 budget. And I'd be like, this is a great Tudor for 2.
Yeah.
Consider it. Like, just save the rest of the money, travel with it, do something. You don't want to tie up all your money in watches. You kind of have to be realistic. It would be great if as a dealer, like every one of my clients went broke buying stuff from me. But then they couldn't buy more stuff. So it's not really sustainable. You need to be sensible.
There's also there's nothing wrong with buying a great mid-range watch, and also at the same time, if you have a budget, buy another great like low-range watch. Like
absolutely. Yeah, I find it funny when people have like, I mean, just an example. I don't think it's an issue having an all Rolex collection, but they have like all Rolexes all worth the same. Like it's all 10 gram watches. I'm like, there are definitely people who would say sell all the Rolexes and buy one AP or like something like that. And I'm not in that camp. But I'm like, maybe instead of having one of your GMTs, sell it and then buy some fun watches. Like buy some variety in. Because that's a lot of money to have tied up in pretty similar watches. And I think for me, the joy of collecting is kind of for it to be eclectic.
Yeah.
Like if you're collecting stuff that's all really similar, that's not really my thing. There's definitely guys who do it really well. There's vintage guys who collect stuff where it's like these watches look identical, but if you look at this line of text, it's different. and that like that is really important to them, which is cool, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you sell a GMT for 25 grand because they're still climbing up in value. You can buy one of the new colorful Cartier tanks. You could buy a vintage Speedmaster. You could buy a higher range, like the new Tudor Chrono. Like, you could buy all those great watches for just one GMT.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of when people have like, they take it too far and they have like $200, $100 watches or whatever. I think you have to make sure you wear all your watches. So if you're like, I only want to wear Rolex, that's why I only collect Rolex. Fair enough. Like, just do that. But if you're like me and you're like, I want some variety, I want to find something I like wearing, especially since sometimes I see a watch and I'm like, oh, I like how it looks. And I get it in person, I'm like, this doesn't feel right for me. Like, something's wrong. And it's often that like intangible thing, like quality or something. It doesn't feel solid enough. So I sell them. And that's what I was doing when I started collecting. I was like keeping what I really liked and selling everything else. And I was kind of just striving for perfection because I couldn't afford to keep watches, which were like, I wear them once a month.
Yeah, I kind of fell into that basket. I kept buying watches. I have a 6 watch box down here, which all the watches in front of me sit in. And these are the watches that I wear. And I have a 24 watch box in my bedroom that's full of watches that I call it watch purgatory. They don't get looked at, they don't get touched, but they're also have no value. Like, you know, I've got a $20 Casio. I've got 6 G-Shocks that are worth maybe $30 a piece. So they're not worth getting rid of, but they're also... I've grown out of that phase of watches. That was kind of when I was like just starting my first job and I had my own money. I was buying G-Shocks because they were $60 a piece and I liked them. It's kind of how I got into the whole thing. So I have this box over here of 12 G-Shocks, which I do have a cool G-Shock here though.
Oh yeah, the format. Yeah. That's real cool.
It's kind of like the be all end all for me.
It's the ultimate G-Shock, isn't it?
I have this one,
That's a
which
nice
is
way to like
my quote unquote custom painted. This is my work watch, right? So it's solar, it's the square, it's classy. You wear it to the gym, wear it to work. I don't care that it's got paint on it. It's a great watch. Yeah.
I like those ones. It's kind of cool that the Full Metal, like, it closed off that era or that chapter of your collecting, nearly. You found the ultimate one, you were like, okay, I'm good now.
The ultimate one is the actual solid gold one, which I will own someday.
Yeah, let's hope they depreciate so you can grab one. But we'll see. I bet they won't. I bet they'll just be the same.
Well, there's only like 20 of them, and they're 80 grand a pop, so... And they're only JDM, and they smashed one of them, so...
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I don't remember which watch event it was at.
A publicity stunt? Or...
Yeah, they had one in a box, one of the solid gold ones, and they repeatedly dropped it just to prove that it was still like shock resistant, like a G-Shock.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's carrying a lot more weight, so it definitely like it could break itself much easier. That's fun.
I want that one. I want the one that was smashed over and over again.
That would be cool. Yeah. Just with like a load of dents on one side. Yeah, that's a good story. Right. How far in are we?
I have roughly 50 minutes and about 50 minutes on audio.
Okay, we should probably wrap up pretty soon then.
Yeah. Do you want to like lightly touch on extra hobbies?
I feel like we could go pretty long on extra hobbies like sports and stuff. I don't know.
Our collecting philosophy.
We can move that to next week.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Cool.
Our views on the current one. What do you want to end with? Something quick?
Yeah, I mean, should we just do Grails? I mean, one of your Grails is obviously a solid gold G-Shock, which I respect massively. What's your joke Grail? Is that kind of your joke Grail watch?
Yes.
Like what you just get to meme? Yeah.
Yeah.
My joke Grail is a Hodinkee travel clock.
God.
I just want one.
Oh my god.
I've looked. There are like threads on r/watch exchange like want to buy Hodinkee travel clock, and there's guys in there like me too. I want one. Give me. Who has one? And no one, like, I've never even seen one sell.
I think
I
Hodinkee
probably have to.
bought them all and made it a scarce market. They're like, quick, we gotta buy these because everyone hates it.
Everyone's memeing so hard. Nah, they sold out in like 2 minutes or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, not 2 minutes, but like quick. But yeah, that was it. I just want one. I would carry it to watch events and I just put it down on the table, like at dinner, like with watch friends.
That would be legendary.
Like set an alarm. That'd be so good. So that's like my dream meme watch. We'll do Grails another time because that's obviously a lot deeper. Yeah, that's my meme watch or like clock, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I would duct tape it to my wrist.
Everyone already
sure,
thinks. Everyone already thinks that this is solid gold. Like I've had people ask me, they're like, "Is that?" At Red Bar Milwaukee a couple weeks ago, I brought this because I knew that those guys with crazy pieces would just absolutely love the solid gold G-Shock. And there was this one guy who the only piece that he had on was a GMT Master 2 Pepsi. And he had it on a Bark and Jack NATO, actually, and it wore really well. I got to put it on.
Sweet, yeah.
But
I was about to ask what bracelet, but that's even better.
He was blown away by the gold G-Shock. He was just like, all these guys with, like, there was a Long A collector there was a modern Rolex collector, and they were all just blown away by the gold G-Shock. And I was like, guys, you just got to pick one up. They're like $300. I was like,
sweet.
I didn't say it, but I'm like, for these guys, that's nothing. So.
Oh yeah, that's like a strap for like a Patek collector. Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, that was fun.
Yes.
We'll definitely record some more. But thank you guys for watching very much. This has been the 12 GMT podcast. We are finishing at 4:02 p.m. GMT. Things happen.
Rough.
We're planning to do this or release an episode weekly. So please stay tuned. Check out Rerun Watches. Check out GVB Watches. We'll have all that linked. We'll have my watch count linked too. Thanks for watching. Have a nice week. Goodbye.
See you guys.